Lecture, I am going to introduce you to the interface of Workbench. So ANSYS Workbench is nothing but a convenient way of managing our simulation projects or CAE projects. So Workbench is an interface through which you will be launching different individual software components like say design modeler to create the geometry, ANSYS mechanical to solve the structural problems, ANSYS meshing modules and other sorts of software components, and also you can use ANSYS Workbench to transfer data between different software components. And finally, it is also useful to see a glance of how a model is being built and also what are all the files that have been used in building that particular model or particular simulation. So this is what basically ANSYS Workbench is. So coming to different types of analysis, there are different types of analysis like structural analysis, dynamic analysis, heat transfer analysis, magnetostat. There are a lot of analysis that you can perform using ANSYS Workbench. As I told you, it is just a project management interface and it is also helpful for launching different software components for performing different sorts of simulations. Coming to this Workbench interface, see here on the left side you will be able to see different toolboxes. To be precise, you are going to see 5 toolboxes. First one is the analysis system toolbox, second one is the component system toolbox, third one custom systems, fourth one design exploration, and fifth one is the external connection systems, in which we are going to mostly use this analysis system toolbox and component system toolbox. And if you are performing advanced analysis and parametric analysis and optimization, you are going to go for design exploration systems. And if you have created your own simulation projects and systems, you can save it in the custom systems branch. So coming to here, I am going to expand the analysis system. So what happens, what are these modules that are present inside analysis system? These are nothing but ready-made stencils or say templates. It may be called as a templates that include different applications for performing a common type of analysis such as this say structural analysis, thermal analysis, model analysis and other sorts of analysis. So what happens for performing an FE analysis, we are going to perform 3 steps. They are the pre-processing, where we are going to create the say geometry, assign materials, we are going to mesh, we are going to apply the boundary conditions as well as loads, and then we are going to solve the problem. And once we solve the problem, we need to understand or analyze that results in the which we do in the post processing. What are all the steps that are required for conducting a specific type of analysis? Everything is available here in the form of a template in the analysis systems. Now coming to the component systems. Component systems are nothing but the component systems are individual building blocks which combined will make the analysis system, or you can also use these component systems individually to perform a single stage of an analysis. For example, let us say in the first stage of pre-processing, the first and foremost step is we are going to create the geometry. So in order to create the geometry, you need to go to the geometry component and you can create the geometry there, or otherwise you can just import the geometry from other CAD softwares. So this is what component systems are. And see here, usually in ANSYS Workbench there are a lot of types of analysis systems present, but what happens, what are all the options that are available in this left hand column? They are dependent on the type of license you are having. Then coming to the basic workflow which we follow in this ANSYS Workbench, first of all what I need to do is I need to select what type of analysis I am going to perform. Let us say I am going to perform static analysis. So I am going to go and select the static analysis or static structural analysis system, and I can just drag it and see if I drag it on the project schematic green color box appears. So I need to drag it and place this particular system onto this green color highlighted area or within the green color box. So what happens, dragging the analysis system onto the project desktop will give you a workflow or will give you a template of the steps that are present in performing a static analysis. So once I have taken this analysis system and placed it on the project schematic, see here the workflow starts from this particular first step and it is going to go all the way down towards this results step. So the workflow is from the top to bottom, and as each stage is going to be completed, the icon that is present here will be turning into this type of green color check mark. So then one thing you can do like this, or if you want to perform static structural analysis, there is another alternative workflow. See, I can just go to this component system. I can just take the individual component of engineering data, then I can take the individual component of geometry, then I am going to take the individual component of mechanical model, and now what I can do is I can join these two by just dragging and placing this here and just dragging this particular cell. These are known as cells. So these rows are known as cells. So I can just drag this geometric row or cell and going to share it with the D. So this is how you can create an alternative workflow. From here you can also go to the mechanical APDL and other sorts of things. This is one way you can create an alternative workflow using the single components, or otherwise if you feel it is tedious, you can directly use the templates that are present inside ANSYS systems. So then, as I've told you, these are the cells. So these cells have different cell states. So this particular the different cell states, see, I have represented the cell states here. So the tick mark means up to date. This refresh symbol is going to be refresh required, and say this thunderbolt is to update required, because why we need update, because the local data has changed. Likewise, you have other lot of symbols for which I have shown these symbols here. You can learn from yourself. So once we have seen the cell states, you can also share data between different solvers, which we are going to see in the further lectures when we come across performing simulations, coupled simulation analysis. Then you can also go to this particular view tab, and then you can save files. So if you have saved this particular project, you can go to the file location using this particular options. So this is the basic interface of ANSYS Workbench, and in addition to all these interfaces and workflows, you are going to have access to file options, where you will you can create a new project, you can open the existing project, you can save this particular project, and then you can have a view. So for example, let us say in this view option also there are two best options which are mostly useful. So if we say if you accidentally removed anything, so you need to reset your desktop. One thing is you need to go to the view and you need to say reset workspace. So resetting workspace means it is going to reset everything. So likewise, if you want to change units, you can go here and you can say units, and this particular options we are going to see in the next lecture of how to create different custom units that you can use, or how to change the units from the existing units inside ANSYS Workbench. And then we are going to go to the tools and we can go to the options and we can change the different options from there. And if you want to access help, you can just go to help and say ANSYS Workbench help, and it launches the ANSYS Workbench help, which by the way is very, very, very useful. So in the next lecture, we are going to see how we can create new custom units and how can we manage our units inside ANSYS Workbench. Thank you.
In the older versions of ANSYS Workbench software and the newer versions of the ANSYS Workbench software. For that purpose, I have opened two different versions of ANSYS Workbench, and if you are able to observe onto the left side of the screen, ANSYS 18.2 version of ANSYS Workbench is open, and it is going to represent the older version of the ANSYS software. Then coming towards the right of the screen, you will be able to observe ANSYS Workbench 2021 R1 software is open, and this is going to represent the latest version of the ANSYS Workbench software. So before going to learn what are the interface changes, we should make sure why we have to learn multiple versions of the same software. First of all, in industry, due to number of factors and constraints, they will be working with the multiple versions of the same software. So they will be looking for candidates who will be comfortable working with different versions of the same software along with the core domain knowledge they are having. So this is why if it is possible, learning interfaces different versions is entirely a realistic aspect. So that is why you need to be having knowledge about different interfaces of the same software. And mind you, this entire course is made in the version of 18.2, but after this series of lectures that you are going to go through in this module, you will be able to easily perform the same operations in any version of the ANSYS software as well. It might be old version of the ANSYS Workbench software or the newer version of the ANSYS Workbench software where interface changes have taken place. So coming to our topic, if you observe, once we open the ANSYS Workbench, this will be the project interface of ANSYS Workbench. And if you observe, the project interface for both the newer version as well as the older version of the software are similar. Whenever we open a software, the first and foremost options we need to look at are how to create a new file, save the existing file, save as existing file, and how to open a already saved file. Right. So all of these options you can get by going to the file option in the older version, and there you will be accessing all of these 4 options. Likewise, coming to the newer version of the software, here you can click file and you will be able to access all of these 4 options. And if you observe, the position of these main options hasn't changed in the older version as well as the newer version as well. Then here also we can access all of these 4 options through quick access toolbar in the older version of the software, and in the newer version of the software also we can access those 4 options through the quick access toolbar. Then coming to the toolboxes, see, the toolboxes are present towards the left side of the ANSYS Workbench interface in the older version of ANSYS Workbench, and in the similar position you will be able to find the toolboxes here as well in the newer version of the software. And the next important thing is view options. So coming to the older version of the software, if I click on the view option, I will be able to access all the options related to manipulating the view of the project schematic. And same here in the 2021 R1, we can go to the view file, and once we go to the view file, we will be able to access the same options that we were able to access in the older versions of the ANSYS software. Then the most important thing is we will be controlling the units for the project that we are going to do. For that purpose, you need to go to units, and once you go to units, you can see what are all the available units that are present for the current project. And if you want to create new units or control the existing units, you need to click on the unit system. And once you click on the unit system, see here a unit system or unit system manager appears before on the screen, and if you are able to observe, these are existing unit systems and their corresponding information. Right now, coming to the latest version of the ANSYS Workbench software, here as well there is an option called units, and if you click units, you will be able to access the same information as like that you have accessed in the previous versions of the ANSYS Workbench software. So here also, if I click on unit systems, see, unit system manager appears, and if you compare both of these unit systems, is there any difference? No. Not only the interface hasn't changed, but whatever the workflow that we use to create units and modify units in the older version of the software, this is exactly same to how we create new systems and control the existing systems in the latest version of the software as well. Finally, to state, there are no changes in the interface elements of ANSYS Workbench main interface or project control interface in the older version and the newer versions as well, and this is also true for the unit system tools also. So whatever the operations we learn on how to control the interface of ANSYS Workbench and unit systems in the older versions. They are exactly the same with the newer versions as well. In this lecture, we are going to see what interface changes have taken place in terms of Engineering Data Manager module and the Design Modeler module, which are two of the most important modules that we need to learn in ANSYS Workbench software. For that purpose, I have opened two different versions of ANSYS Workbench, and towards the left side of your screen you will be able to observe ANSYS 18.2, which is the old version of ANSYS software, and towards the right side of your screen you can observe the ANSYS version of 2021 R1, which represents the latest version of the ANSYS software. So already we have noticed in the previous lecture there is no interface difference in the entire project schematic as well as the availability of toolboxes inside both of the versions of the software. But one thing is you may notice there are a less amount of toolboxes here when compared to the number of toolboxes that are present in the latest version of the software. This is nothing to do with the version of the software but to do with the license. Okay, fine. Then once we got a clarity over this option, the next thing is we need to come to the static structural system. We will drag and drop that system and place it on the project schematic, and the same workflow can be followed in the newer version of the software. Come to the toolboxes, go to the analysis system you want, just drag and drop it. You will be able to create a new analysis system in the newer version of the software as well, right? Then in order for us to access the Engineering Data Manager, we need to come here, and these are called as cells that we already have seen in the previous lecture. So I will double click on the engineering data cell, and once I double click on the engineering data cell, see it opened in the new tab inside newer version of the ANSYS Workbench software. And if I come to the older version of the ANSYS Workbench software and double click on the engineering data cell, similar thing happens. It will also open in a additional tab. Now if you observe onto the left side of your screen, there are all the toolboxes that are related to material creation options, and in addition to that, this Engineering Data Manager is having 4 different groups or windows. So this is one window, this is the second window, third window, and the fourth window. And if you observe, same interface with the same 4 types of windows are also present in the newer version of the ANSYS Workbench software as well. See here, suppose for example here there is a outline of schematic window, and in the same position in the newer version of the software also we are having the outline of schematic window. And to be precise, whatever the interface elements that are there in the Engineering Data Manager of the older version of ANSYS Workbench software, those are exactly present at the same position in the similar way in the ANSYS newer versions as well. Now what I will do is I will click on the engineering data sources in the older version of the ANSYS software, and see here I will be able to access the library of materials that are already inbuilt into the ANSYS software. Likewise, if I come to the newer version of the ANSYS software, I will just click on the engineering data sources, and once I click on the engineering data sources, see here I am also able to access the different kinds of already pre-built materials and libraries inside ANSYS Workbench software. At the interface level and the workflow level, there is no change in the options that are available with the previous version as well as the advanced version or the latest version of the ANSYS Workbench software. But there is one small difference, is that additional materials have been added into the latest version of software when compared to the existing older version of the software, right? Now I will just close this engineering data tab, as well as I will also close this engineering data tab in the newer version as well. I will double click on the geometry cell to open the design modeler in the older version of ANSYS software, and here also I will come and double click on the geometry cell of the newer version of the software, and just wait for a moment so that both the modules will be open. So if you observe the screen, there are no differences in the interface elements that have been inculcated in the design modeler module of the ANSYS Workbench software as well. So if you observe here also, this is the graphic screen in the older version of the software. Here is the graphic screen in the newer version of the ANSYS software, and whatever the options that are present in the older version of the software, and even the arrangement of toolbars. So these things are called as toolbars, and how these toolbars are arranged is exactly the same as in the newer version of the ANSYS software. So if you observe, the tree outline for modeling is exactly at the same position like in the newer version of the software, and I mind you, there is no much difference in the placement of options between different versions of the software when coming to the design modeler module as well. So with this, we are clear with the fact that whatever the options that we are going to learn for creating materials or controlling materials using engineering data manager, and whatever the options that we use for creating models inside design modeler haven't changed much in the newer versions of ANSYS Workbench software in comparison with the older version of the software. So if you learn older version of the software, you will have no trouble in going forward with the newer version of the software as well. In this lecture, we are going to see what interface element changes that have taken place in the module of ANSYS Mechanical when we compare old version of the ANSYS Workbench software with the new version of ANSYS Workbench software. So for that, I have opened already completed project in two different versions of ANSYS Workbench software, and as usual on the left side of your screen, the version of ANSYS Workbench is nothing but 18.2, and towards the right side of your screen, the version of the ANSYS software is 2021 R1, right? So for us to access ANSYS Mechanical module, we just need to come to this model cell and double click on the model cell. So I will double click on the model cell of the older version of ANSYS software. Then I will also come to the newer version of ANSYS Workbench software, and I will double click on the model module so that I can open ANSYS Mechanical in both the versions of the ANSYS Workbench software. So both versions of ANSYS Mechanical are open now on the screen, and if you observe, there is a change in the interface between both the versions of the software. So this side you are seeing the ANSYS Mechanical interface for ANSYS R18.2, whereas coming here you are seeing the interface for ANSYS 2020 R1 version, right? So if you observe, there are few key elements that we need to know before understanding the differences between the elements of each of the version of the ANSYS Mechanical software. So if you observe, the first important element is called as a tree outline. This is what is called as a tree outline, and if you observe, the placement of the tree outline is same in both the versions of the software. Here in the older version, it is located towards the left side of the workbench interface. Likewise, in the newer version as well, this particular outline tree is located towards the left side of the workbench interface. So the position of the outline tree haven't changed. Then coming to the groups, so these are all called as groups in the outline tree. See, there are different groups here in the outline tree. Here also in the newer version as well, there are different groups in the outline tree. Okay, but if you observe, there is one additional group called as the materials group that has been added in the newer version of the software. So this particular materials group is not present in the older versions of the software. Okay, so that is one major difference. Then coming to the details window, it is located at the same position just below the outline tree in both of the versions of the software. So there is no change in the position of this details window. So whenever we select any option, we can see the details for that option here just below the outline tree in both versions of the software. It may be lower version of ANSYS Workbench or higher version of the ANSYS Workbench. Then coming to the topmost interface, see here in older versions of ANSYS software, all the options that are available are arranged in terms of toolbars. But if you observe in the newer versions of the software, all of the options are arranged in a ribbon type style. So this is called as a ribbon. This entire area is called as a ribbon bar, and in this ribbon bar we will be having different tabs. So see here we have different tabs, and each tab consists of something called as a groups. So these are all group of commands. Okay, so what is the major change in the interface? Whatever the options that are available for us in the older versions of ANSYS software, they used to be arranged in the form of toolbars. See here, these are all different toolbars. But coming to the latest version of ANSYS Workbench software, all of the arrangement of options has taken place in the ribbon style, and you can access different options through different types of tabs and different groups of options. One more important element that we need to notice is the placement of what is known as a context toolbar. So this is what is called as a context toolbar in the older versions of the ANSYS software, and this context toolbar changes with different kinds of options that we are going to select. Likewise, if you come to the newer versions of the software, instead of the context toolbar, we are having what is known as a context tab. This is what is called as a context tab. Inside this context tab, whatever the options that are present in the context toolbar of older version of the software, same things are available here in the context tab of the newer version of ANSYS Workbench software. In this lecture, we are going to learn how we can control different types of unit systems in both the older version of ANSYS software as well as the newer version of the ANSYS software. For that, I already have opened a project file inside two different versions of ANSYS software, and if you see here, I will be maximizing the ANSYS 18.2 version of software, and if I want to go to the unit systems here, I need to come to this toolbar, and here there is an option called as units, and if I click on the option units, I will be able to have access to all the units that are already inbuilt or available inside the ANSYS project. So if I want to change the units, I can select any unit system from here. So if you observe, the units are currently in meters, so that is why here the geometry dimensions are shown in meters. Now what I will do is I will come up to this option and click to change the option to metric mm, and once I click here, what happened, automatically everything changed to the selected unit system, and in the unit system that I have selected, the length is represented in mm, that is why this changed to mm. So this is how you can control the unit system in the older version of ANSYS mechanical software. Now what we'll do is we'll switch to the newer version of ANSYS mechanical software, and we'll see where we can find this exact same option, right? And I will just minimize this and I will maximize the latest version of ANSYS mechanical. And if you come here, in order for you to change the unit system or control the unit system, you need to come to the home tab, and in the home tab there is an option called as units, and if you click on this option units, you will be able to access different unit systems. So here I will change the unit system, which is currently in meters, to metric mm, and observe the entire geometry is being represented in mm right now. So this is how you can access and control the unit systems in both the versions of the ANSYS software. In this lecture, we are going to see where we can find the context menu toolbar inside the old version of ANSYS Workbench software as well as the latest version of ANSYS Workbench software. But first of all, we'll learn what is a context toolbar. So context toolbar is nothing but a toolbar which will contain the options based on the selected group. So if you come here in the outline tree, there are several different groups. So based on the group I am going to select, the options available in the context toolbar will change. Now what I will do is I will maximize the ANSYS mechanical 18.2, and if you observe, this is the position of the context toolbar inside ANSYS 18.2 or older version of the software, right? So if you observe, if I am going to select the mesh group, see the options have changed in this particular toolbar. Likewise, if I select static structural, the options that are available in the toolbar have changed. So this is what is called as the context toolbar, and you can find the context toolbar here at the bottom of all the toolbars inside ANSYS mechanical software of older versions. Now I will just minimize this one, and I will just maximize the ANSYS mechanical software of the newer version. And if you come here and observe, whatever the context toolbar that is present in the previous versions of the software, that is now changed into context tab. So here is the context tab. So based on the group you select, you will be getting the options available. So for example, let us say, so once I click on the geometry group, see here whatever the options that are available in that geometry group are being shown in this context tab. So if I select the static structural, similar thing happens here. So this is where is the position of the context tab inside the newer versions of ANSYS Workbench software. So I hope you understood how to access the context toolbar, or let us say context tab, in different versions of ANSYS software, because this is one of the most important toolbar which we are going to use for a number of purposes. In this lecture, we will see where is the graphics toolbar as well as the selection toolbar that is present inside older versions of ANSYS software as well as newer versions of the ANSYS software. For that purpose, I am maximizing the ANSYS mechanical 18.2 version, and see here, if you come to the top of this particular ANSYS mechanical interface, this is what is called as a selection toolbar, and just beside it, this is what is called as a graphics toolbar. So selection toolbar is used to select and filter out different geometric entities as well as the meshing entities. Likewise, this graphics toolbar is used for manipulating the views and adjusting the position of the geometry that we are currently seeing in the graphics window. And in addition to all of these things, this is what is called as a status bar, and if we apply any operation, we will be able to see what is its status, right? So the position of the selection toolbar as well as the graphics toolbar are currently present here in the top of the toolbars in older versions of ANSYS Workbench software. Now I will minimize this one, and I will maximize the latest version of ANSYS Mechanical. Now if you observe, the view toolbar as well as the selection toolbar are placed differently from the options that are available here. So this is what is called as a view toolbar or graphics toolbar. This is what is called as a selection toolbar. So these two things are available at this particular position, and whatever the options that are available in the previous version of ANSYS Workbench software, they haven't changed in both of these particular selection toolbar or the graphics toolbar. So coming to the position of the status bar, if you observe, this is what is the status bar in the newer version of the software. So the status bar location hasn't changed, as well as the graphics window or the world coordinate system also haven't changed in the newer version of the software when compared to the older version of the software. In this lecture, we are going to see how we can find out the properties of the geometry inside older version of the software as well as the newer version of the software. For that purpose, I am maximizing the ANSYS 18.2 version, And if you want to find out the basic geometry properties like volume and mass of this geometry, you just need to come to the geometry group, and in the geometry group you need to come to the details window, and in the details window you have a group called properties. You need to expand that properties group, and once you expand the properties group, you will be able to observe the volume as well as mass of this particular object, right? And this particular mass will be calculated based on the material that is assigned to this particular object, right? Then if you want to find out more geometry properties, what you need to do is you need to come to the geometry group only, and in the geometry group you will expand the geometry group and select the geometry. And once you select the geometry, see here there is a group called properties again in the details window, and you will expand that properties group. And here in addition to volume and mass, you can also observe centroid position as well as the moment of inertia about different axes. So this is how you can view the properties of the geometry inside older versions of the ANSYS Workbench software. Now I will minimize the older version and maximize the newer version of ANSYS Workbench software. Now I have maximized the newer version of ANSYS mechanical software. Here also, if you want to see the basic properties of the geometry, I will click on the geometry group, and once I click on the geometry group, I will come to the details window, and in the details window I will click on the properties, and I will be able to see its volume as well as mass. And likewise, similar to the options that are available in the older versions of the ANSYS mechanical software, here also if I want to see the advanced properties of this particular geometry, I need to come and expand the geometry group, and I need to select the geometry. And once I select the geometry, here I will be able to have the properties group in the details, and once I expand this properties group and scroll down, I'll be able to observe the additional properties such as centroid position as well as moment of inertia, right? So this is how we will be able to find the properties of a geometry in the older versions of ANSYS mechanical software as well as the newer versions of the ANSYS mechanical software. In this lecture, we are going to see how we can control the materials that are being applied to the geometry inside ANSYS mechanical software for both the older versions as well as the newer versions of the software, right? For that, I will just maximize the older version of the software, and here if you want to control the material that is being applied to this particular body, you need to just come to this geometry group, and in the geometry group you need to select the geometry. And once you select the geometry, you need to come down to the details window, and in the details window there is a group called material, and in the material there is an option called as assignment. So you need to come to this assignment option, and here if you observe, by default in ANSYS Workbench, structural steel will be applied to any object that we import into the ANSYS Workbench software. And remember, this point is common throughout all versions of ANSYS Workbench software. It may be newer versions or older versions, right? Now if you want to change the material that is assigned to the object, for that what you need to do is you need to come to this end, and there is a arrow, and if you click this arrow, what will happen is it will give us options like creating a new material or editing the existing material. And if you want to create a new material, what you will do is you need to click on new material, and once you click on new material, notice will come. You just need to click OK, and once you click OK, see here ANSYS Engineering Data Manager is open. Now using this ANSYS Engineering Data Manager, you can add new materials, and once you add new materials, those materials will be available for assignment here in this particular version of the ANSYS software. So this is how you can control the materials that are being applied to any geometry inside the older versions of the software. Now I will switch to the newer version of the ANSYS software. In the newer version of the ANSYS mechanical software, there is a new group that has been added to the outline tree. So this is nothing but the materials group. This material group helps us in adding new materials and editing existing materials in a more intuitive way when compared to the older versions of the software. So once you click on this particular materials group, see here, these are the favorite materials that are by default built into the ANSYS Workbench software, and this is the structural steel, which is the current material that we have assigned to the geometry, and this is the copper alloy is the material that I have used previously for another project, so that is why it is showing it as history, right? Now if you want to add new materials, you can directly search for the material using this search bar. Suppose for example I want to search for copper, so I will just type in copper, and whatever the materials that are corresponding to the copper or relating to copper that are present in the engineering materials library, they all will be highlighted, and once they are highlighted, I can select from here. I will just click here, and once I click here, what will happen, I am able to see the properties that are defined to this particular material, and if I am satisfied with the properties and I want to add this particular material to the project, I will just click on this plus symbol, and once I click on the plus symbol, if you come back by cancelling out this search, see here, in addition to structural steel, copper alloy is also available for our project. Now how we are going to change the material assignment? So in order for us to change the material assignment, we have to again come to the geometry group, and in the geometry group I can select this particular geometry and come to the details window. In the details window there will be the same option of assignment, and you can just come to this end and click on the arrow, and instead of structural steel you can select copper alloy. Now if you observe, the material has changed to copper alloy. This is how you can control materials in the newer version of the ANSYS mechanical software. And in addition to this, you can also come to the materials group and you can expand the materials group, and once you expand the materials group, you will be able to see what are all the materials that are available for the current project, and based on the selection it is going to show the properties of that particular material here in the engineering data manager material view, right? So this is how you can control the different material assignments inside the newer version of the ANSYS Workbench software. In this lecture, we are going to see how we can create a new coordinate system inside ANSYS mechanical software for both the versions which is 18.2 as well as the latest version of 2021 R1. So for that, right now I am in the ANSYS 18.2 version of ANSYS mechanical, and if you want to create a coordinate system here, you just need to come to the outline tree and just click on the coordinate systems group, and once you click on the coordinate systems group, you can have access to the create coordinate system option here in the context menu toolbar. So you can click on this particular option and you can create different coordinate systems, right? So this is one way in which we can create a coordinate system. Coming to the another way, what you will do is you will just right click on the coordinate system, and there is an option called insert, and using the insert option you can just click on a coordinate system, and likewise you can create the coordinate system inside ANSYS mechanical in the older versions of the software. Now what I will do is I will just select both of these two coordinate systems by pressing Ctrl, and I will just right click and say delete both of them, and I will click yes. Okay, fine. Now I will switch to the newer version of the ANSYS Workbench software. Coming to the newer versions of ANSYS mechanical software, whatever the options that we got there in the older version of the software, the same options are present, but the position has changed a little bit. So if you want to create the coordinate system, first you need to come to the coordinate systems group in the outline tree, and once you come here, see the context menu toolbar is containing options that help us to create the coordinate system. So you need to come to this particular tab, and in this particular tab there is an option called as coordinate system, and if I click the coordinate system, now we will be able to create the new coordinate system. And if you observe, once I click on create new coordinate system, different options that are available for manipulating the new coordinate system are highlighted here. Then the next way in which we can create a coordinate system is nothing but similar to the older version, where we will come to the coordinate system group in the outline tree, and we can right click and we will say insert, and we will click on coordinate system. So these are two different ways in which you can create a new coordinate system inside ANSYS Mechanical latest version of the software. So now what I will do is I will just select both of these options here by pressing Ctrl, and I will just right click and delete both of these options and click yes. So this is how you can create a coordinate system inside ANSYS Mechanical software for both the new as well as the old version. In this lecture, we are going to see how we can create automatic mesh and access the meshing options inside both versions of ANSYS Mechanical softwares. So now we have opened the ANSYS 18.2, and in this if I have to generate an automatic mesh, I need to come to the outline tree, and in the outline tree there is a group called as mesh, and I need to right click on that particular group, and I need to click on generate mesh. And once I click on generate mesh, see here, based on whatever the automatic settings are there, the software has generated a mesh. Now in addition to this automatic mesh generation, if you want to access a number of options relating to the mesh, you can access those options using two different means. One means is to select this mesh group and come to the context menu toolbar, and in the context menu toolbar you can access different options like generating mesh and different mesh controls as well as mesh editing options. This is one way, and the next way is you can just right click on the mesh group and go to insert, and in the insert you will be able to access different options that are related to the mesh, right? So this is how you can access mesh options inside ANSYS Mechanical older version of the software. Now what I will do is I will switch to the newer version of the ANSYS Mechanical software. Now in order for us to generate automatic mesh inside the newer version of the software, it is nothing but similar as we have done before in the older version of the software. We just need to come to the outline tree, and in the outline tree we just need to come to the mesh group, and in the mesh group I will right click and say generate mesh, and once I click on generate mesh, what will happen, based on the automatic settings we have, the particular mesh is generated. So in addition to this, if we want to access different options relating to mesh, we can just click on the mesh group here, and once we click on the mesh group here, see in the context tab we are having the mesh options. So whatever the options that are available for us in controlling the mesh, all these options are available in this particular tab, arranged into different groups. And in addition to this, you can also right click on the mesh group, and you will find different options relating to the mesh, as well as if you go to the insert, these are all the options that are used to control the current mesh. So this is how you can access different mesh options in the newer versions of ANSYS Mechanical software. So I hope you understood how to access different mesh options in both older version as well as newer version of the ANSYS Mechanical software as well. In this lecture, we are going to see how we can access the options relating to application of different kinds of constraints as well as loads inside both versions of the software. So coming to the ANSYS 18.2 software, if you want to access the options related to application of loads and constraints, you just need to come to the static structural group in the outline tree, and once you select the static structural group, see here the context menu toolbar has changed, and here are different options to through which you can apply different kinds of loads. If you want to apply inertial loads, you need to come to the inertial group. If you want to apply different types of loads, you can come to this particular loads group and select what kind of load you want to apply on the geometry. Likewise, coming to constraints, you need to come to the supports group, and in the supports group you will be able to have access to different options which will be used to create different types of constraints. And in addition to all of these things, you can create what are known as constraint equations using this conditions option. In addition to that, if you want to apply the loads or any conditions directly on the mesh, you have to come here to the direct FE options. So this is one way we can access the options that are available for applying different kinds of boundary conditions. Then in addition to this particular way, what we can do is we can come to the static structural group, and in the static structural group I will just right click, and once I right click I will go to the insert option, and once I go to the insert option, see here whatever the options that were available in the context toolbar, all of these options are highlighted in the form of a list here, and from this list you can easily select that particular entity which you want to apply, and once you select that entity you can easily apply it to the geometry. So this is how you will be able to access the options that are required to apply different kinds of constraints as well as loading conditions inside older versions of ANSYS Workbench software. Now I will switch you to the newer version of the ANSYS mechanical software. Now coming to the newer version of ANSYS mechanical software, if you want to access the options relating to application of loads and constraints, you need to come to the static structural group, and once you select the static structural group, here you need to come to the environment tab, and in the environment tab you will be able to access different options like inertial forces, other types of loads, supports as well. And in addition to all of these things, you can have conditions, and also you can go for direct FE or application of loads or boundary conditions directly on the nodes itself rather than the geometry. So if you observe, there is one other change is whatever the major type of forces or loads that we use, those three kinds of loads have been separated out from this drop down menu, and likewise what are all the types of supports we'll use, those have been separated out, and the rest of the other kinds of supports or let us say constraint conditions have been grouped into one group, right? And in addition to that, if you want to access all of these options, you can also come here to the static structural group and right click and say insert, and you will be able to access all of those options in the form of a list like in the older version of the ANSYS mechanical software. So these are the two different ways in which you can access different types of options relating to the application of loads and constraints inside the newer version of the ANSYS mechanical as well as the older version of the ANSYS mechanical software. In this lecture, we are going to see how we can access the solve button inside ANSYS mechanical software, and also how we can request different kinds of results in both of the versions of ANSYS mechanical, right? So in ANSYS 18.2, which is the older version of ANSYS mechanical software, for us to solve this particular problem, what we need to do is we need to come to the static structural group, right click on the static structural group and select solve, and once I click on solve, it is going to solve this particular problem. Likewise, if you want to solve this particular problem, you can also come to this top toolbar and you can click on solve. Once you click on solve, it will solve this particular problem. And once you solve the problem, then you need to request different kinds of results that you want, like see here I have requested total deformations, directional deformation as well as the equivalent stress. Okay, fine. So in order for us to access all these options, we need to just select the solution group, and in the solution group, see here the context toolbar has changed. Now we have different kinds of results that we can request from the software. For example, deformation results, various types of strain results, various types of stress results, and in addition to all of this, there are few more results which you can request the computer to show us based on the type of analysis and type of boundary conditions we use. And in addition to that method, we can also come here to the solution group and right click on the solution group and say insert, and in the insert you can access different groups that are available in the context menu toolbar, and from here also you can select and add different kinds of results to your solution. So these are the two different ways in which you can access the solution option as well as request different kind of results from the software in the older version. Then I will switch to the newer version of the ANSYS mechanical software. So coming to the newer version of ANSYS mechanical software, here also you will just click in the solution group, and once you click on the solution group, you can access different options that are related for requesting different kinds of results from the software. So before that, I will just go to the static structural group and right click and click on solve. So once you click on solve, the software will solve this particular problem, or otherwise you can also access this particular solve option by going to the environment toolbar inside the context tab and click on solve. This also will solve this problem. And once we solve the problem, we'll come to the solution group, and once we come to the solution group, we'll go and select different kinds of solutions from different groups, and I can just select it so that it will be added to our solution branch. So this is how we can access the solve option as well as request different kinds of results from the ANSYS software.
In this lecture, we are going to see how we can access the units options inside ANSYS Workbench. So for example, if you want to say access the units that are predefined inside ANSYS Workbench, then you can just click on units, and here you are going to get access to whatever all the units that are by default available inside Workbench. And here these two are not present in the ANSYS Workbench by default, but I have added these two units to my ANSYS Workbench using the custom unit manager, and I have asked these two units also to be displayed in this particular group. So here from this group you can change your units. Let us say, for example, if I want my weights to be in kgs, I can change it to say SI unit, or I can change it to metric. If I want my weights to be displayed in ton, I can just select ton or this particular unit. Likewise, you can select from a lot of units systems that are already present by default in this particular ANSYS Workbench. But why do we need custom unit systems? Because if we are working on a global scale, what happens is in one country a simulation engineer may follow this inch, pound, second, and in another country they may follow this meters and other sorts of things. So what happens is there will be a mismatch of units which may lead to the failure of the total simulation project. So that is why if there is any necessity, you can create your own units and then you can just export them to a file, and you can send that file to other person so that he is going to load that into the ANSYS Workbench, and both of these people are going to work with the same units. So in order to create the units, I need to go to the unit system. So once I select the unit system, see here unit system window opens. Say now here I have different columns. So the first column is nothing but it is showing the number. It is representing the unit system, name of the unit system here. In this B column, see here this particular option refers that if I select this particular option, what happens, this particular unit system will be active in my present project. So whatever the project that I am working currently, this particular unit system I have selected through this column will be present only for that particular project. And if I change, say if I close the project and I open a new project, then this particular system will be reset to the whatever default system that we have selected. So in order to select a default system, you need to come to this 0. See here. So for example, if you select this metric as your default system, what happens right now? for this particular project we are working with metric ton units, but once I close this particular project and open a new project, what happens? My default unit system will become metric kgs. No, I don't want like this. I do want this metric ton to be my default system for the next project as well. So what I'm going to do is instead of selecting this one, I'm going to just select this one. So once I select this one, what happens is how many number of times I open a new project, my default this one unit system will be metric ton itself. So then next one is there are number of unit systems. You can hide the unit systems. You can ask the software to show the unit system. So here if you see, if you are going to press this suppress, what happens is this workbench will not be showing you the units there in the units tab of ANSYS Workbench. So for example, let us say this US customary system is in suppression mode. Now if I just click here, if I just close this one and click here in the units, can I see this US customary? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the unit system once again and see, I'm going to just unsuppress this US customary system by clicking on this arrow box. So and then I'm going to just close. See here, now I'm going to see two US customary systems. See here, one US customary unit system and another one US customary unit system. Likewise, you can ask ANSYS Workbench to show whatever unit systems you require, and other unit systems you can just suppress so that this particular menu will not be populated with a lot of number of unit systems. Then again we go to the unit system. So in order to create your own custom unit system, first thing you need to do is you need to select some unit system that is pre-existing inside ANSYS Workbench, and then you need to say duplicate, and once you press duplicate, see here another row will be added to the existing rows, and then you can just double click on this particular name to give the name. So I'm going to give again Rakesh say 3. So this is the unit system, custom unit system that I'm going to create. So once I finish naming my own custom unit system, then I come back into this particular part of the window where I can see the type of quantity being measured and the unit corresponding to my unit system. So for example, if I use the unit system here, the angle will be measured in radians, but I don't want it to be measured in radians. Then I can click on this particular drop down arrow and I can select degrees, so that whenever I use this particular Rakesh 3 system, what happens, the angle is always measured in terms of degrees, not in terms of radians. Likewise, you can also change the mass from kgs to ton, decaton, grams and other sorts of things, and you will have access to number of options, number of quantities and number of unit systems, and you can play around with this. So once you are satisfied with this, you can either set it as a unit system for the current project by clicking here, or otherwise you can set it as a default unit for the entire time. So you can just select here. If you don't want to show this particular system for this project, you can just click here to suppress. But right now what I want is I don't want this particular unit system to be suppressed. I'm going to just untick this particular box, and I'm going to change my default units to metric kgs and other things. So once I am done, I can just close this and now I will go to the units tab, and you see the new system which I have added is being shown here, is nothing but Rakesh 3. So this is how you can create your own custom system. Then so once you have created your custom system, you need to export it so that this particular unit system can be used by the other persons. So for that purpose, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the units once again, going to the unit systems, and then I'm going to just select the unit system which I want to say export, and say click on export, and I can give the name here or just leave the name by default, and say I'm going to give the name 31. So I'm going to save it. So once I save the system, I can send this particular small file through mail to the other person who is working on the same project. And once I have done this, if some other person sends me a unit system, I can just import it. So if I just select this and say import and browse for the file location, I just want to select this XML document and press open, so that it will be added to my total system of units. Here it is showing error because it is saying that already this Rakesh 3 has been defined in the unit system or present in the unit system. I'm going to press OK. So if you want to delete any system, you just click select that particular system. Say I'm going to select this particular system, and then I'm going to just press delete. So once you just press delete, you can just delete. So this is how you can just use the unit systems and manage different sorts of units for your simulation projects inside ANSYS Workbench. In the next lecture, we are going to see how to save the files inside ANSYS Workbench. Thank you. Sure, I am going to show you how you can save ANSYS Workbench files. So once you have say completed the simulation and you want to save the project, then you can just go and go to the file and you can just save it from here, or otherwise you can press Ctrl plus S, or otherwise you can also access this save option from here. So if you want to save this with other name, if you want to save the already saved project with other name, you can use the save as option, which you can access from file, save as, or otherwise you can also access it from this particular toolbar. And you can coming to this, I'm going to go to the file and press save. Once I ask it to save the particular project, it will ask me the location at which I'm going to save my project. For this purpose, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my desktop and I'm going to name it like a test. Say I will name it as test, and see here. So once I have given the name, it is showing me that it is going to save my project in .wbpj file format, which is nothing but workbench project file. Then I'm going to press save. Once I click on save, it is going to save the total project. So once it saves the total project, let us go to this desktop once. So see here on the desktop where I have saved this test files, one folder as well as one ANSYS Workbench file has been created. In this particular folder, it will have all the result values, it will have all the geometry values, geometric bodies and other sorts of things which are used inside this ANSYS project. And this particular file contains all the links and project templates that have been used in the particular project. So if I want to open this particular project, I just need to double click on this so that it will be opened inside ANSYS Workbench. Coming to the next option, you can also save this particular Workbench files in the form of an archive. So what happens if you have worked on a project and you need to send this particular project file to other person somewhere else, so you can easily do it. You can easily transmit this particular files through Workbench archive files rather than normal Workbench project files. So for that purpose, you need to go to file and you need to select archive. So once you select archive, it will ask you where to store the archive. You define the location, and once you define the location, see here earlier the project the extension of saving the file was a WBPJ, but here the project file extension is a WBPZ. So this is also I'm going to save it on the desktop and I'm going to save. And once I click on save, it will ask us some options. So the first option is whether you want to save the results and solution files that have been created inside this particular project. Sometimes what happens is there will be a very large project where if you are going to save all these results and solution files, what happens, you will get a very large file. Rather than that, you can create simple graphs and other sorts of things and you can send it over the internet. So in that particular case, you need not select this particular option. Coming to this particular option, inside ANSYS Workbench, sometimes we need to import different geometries and other sorts of files from external directories. So what happens, it is asking us whether to copy those files into this archive or not, and we can press yes and we can say archive. Once we press on archive, a file will be created. Then coming to the desktop again, you see right now when we have saved the Workbench in the archive format, there is only one file that has been created and the file extension is WBPJ. And see here, in order to symbolically say this is an archive file, a zip symbol has appeared here. So this is an efficient way when you want to send your project files without any loss to other persons. In order to open such type of files, what you need to do is you need to go back to your ANSYS Workbench files and say file and restore archive, ask for restore archive, and once I select restore archive, it will ask me to browse for the archive file, and I'm going to go and select this particular archive file, and I'm going to press open. And once I press open, it will ask me where to unzip all the files that are present inside the archive file. I need to select one desktop location and then press save. So it is asking already a project with that specific name is existing on the desktop, whether you want me to overwrite it or not. For now, I'm just not going to replace it. So this is how you can save files inside ANSYS Workbench and restore the files into ANSYS Workbench. In the next section, you are going to see an introduction to Engineering Data Manager, where you will be able to manage all the material data that you will be using throughout the entire simulation projects. Thank you.